Hello and happy Friday, everyone. We're here to do the weekly update for the Crane Mountain Gaming game project. I'm going to try a slightly different format this time based on some feedback from some of you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a short section up front about, what is the game, what is the project, brief, and then we're going to jump into the weekly update kind of portion of this as well. And I'm going to try to do that sort of faster and more one-two punch. Kind of here are all the changes that were made for people who want to check it out. And then we're going to go into a third portion where I show you some of the changes. So this way I can kind of bookmark the video a little bit and you can jump in and out and check what you want rather than watching the whole thing. And we'll try and keep it shorter in general as well. Because I think the videos were running a bit long. It was hard to tell if there was a piece you were interested, where to find that, etc. So we're going to take a stab at this and appreciate your feedback in general through the comments or on Twitter and Facebook, which is where most of you contact me. So that's the plan. So first part there, as I said, is what is this project? So I started this company in November to do game development, which has always been a kind of a passion of mine and something I wanted to take my programming experience and my product management experience and try to create something on my own that I really liked and that hopefully you guys would like to play as well. So we're working on a mobile game, which is a hybrid of a sim or simulation game and an RPG or a role-playing game. So like a simulation game, you don't see your character, you're invisible, but you're directing all of the action, which you'll see if you watch the demo portion. And then like an RPG, you're gathering equipment, you're leveling up your characters, you're increasing stats and making build decisions, and then your characters that you control as the sim overlord are going off and doing battle with enemies and finding more loot and so on based on the way you built them and the decisions you've made and how you invested in them. And the goal is a semi-casual game, so not something that you're intended to grind, not an e-sport, not something as all-consuming as a World of Warcraft or something, but really in this niche of games that I would like to play, which is busy life, family, work, all this other stuff, but I can fit it in. And in sim fashion, I can actually direct my team to do some things, play some portions of the game, kind of asynchronously while I do other things. I can check back on them. So the game, to some degree, not totally and not autonomously, but can be teed up to do things while you're offline, and you can check on the results later. Or if you want, you can follow your team's progress in real time. So that's kind of the idea of what we're doing, and that'll hopefully help explain the mechanics a bit more. So the idea is to make a game that is has the RPG mechanics. You can play it in a really involved and continuous fashion if you want, and you'll get quite a bit out of it. But if you don't have a huge amount of time, or you're looking for something more toy-like or just for fun, or you can do it in fits and spurts, it should be accessible, and you shouldn't feel like you're completely left behind or the game isn't really intended for you. So that's the idea. So second part here, I'm going to do a quick list of things that have changed this week. And I'll just kind of run through. So if you just want to, if you've been following for a while and you just want to get the highlights of what's going on and what things have been added and where we are, check this portion. Otherwise, you can jump to the third section and I'll kind of do some demo. So I'm going to glance aside here and look at my list of things so I don't forget, which I wrote on the back of the utility bill. It's amazing. Why waste paper? So big update for this week. We have actual art, which I'm very happy about. If you've seen it before, the game has just been kind of placeholder art that I created in GIMP, which is pretty low quality, but basically just to get a sense for what the world is like. We have actual art now by an artist who runs Jammo Games, who, if you've seen me post about the botanist game he has on Greenlight right now, should check that out and support it. He's a great artist. He does a pixel art style that is very close to what I was hoping to do for the game because of my sort of fascination with those early era RPGs that I grew up with. So we have some art in there, and then we have the beginnings of some sound effects as well. They're not pervasive, but I have some sound effects added for some elements. So in the demo, you'll actually see the new art, and you'll see the sound effects as well. The art is basically habitat scenes and character sprites. So the exploration doesn't have art yet, and not all of the objects have art in the game. But there are basic explorer animations. And this also means that the automatic and random generation of different explorers is starting to play in. There's only a handful of them right now. But when I run the demo, you'll see that they'll kind of get randomly skinned. It'll be a bit more controlled, but still randomly determined in the future. So big stuff on that front. You'll start to get a sense of what the game would look like, and hopefully some of the elements and mechanics in the game will make more sense once you've seen the non-placeholder art. Should totally make sense. Another big change is I changed the way that power cells work. I've made a couple modifications to this before if you've been following along. So, I think I've settled on a good design, which is very similar if you've played ARPGs, action RPGs, loot grinders, and things like that, like Diablo or Path of Exile or Torchlight, Torchlight 2, those types of games. The power cells work very similar to kind of flasks right now, which is in the game, if you're new to this, your character's health pool or their life total or their hit points or whatever you want to call it is basically based on what a frame that they wear. So they're going off to explore space in unpredictable environments and hostile environments. So they wear this gear that's fashioned on what they use when they're going outside of their space habitat and trying not to die from micrometeoroids and other things while they work on the habitat or try to capture water from asteroids or whatever. So they wear these frames, and these frames are basically force fields, and they generate a kind of a field of effect that stops incoming projectiles and other things from harming the wearer. So the purpose of the power cell is to recharge up to a limited degree the capacity of that force field when it gets depleted. So those are some theme elements, but basically it's your health pool and the power cell is your potion. So they're designed now to work basically like a flask, which is it's actually gear that you can equip, and you can find or buy upgrades, or you can craft upgrades. And the quality or the rarity of the power cell item that you're equipping determines how many charges it has, so how many times it can recharge your frame or refill your health, and how much it refills. So there's a certain number of uses before it's depleted, and then if you still have to fight more and you're out, you're probably going to die. And then you can, when you get back to the habitat, if you successfully survive the adventure, if your explorer makes it back, you can spend a certain amount of money, which is basically an energy cost to, take energy from the habitat and use that to refill the power cell. So I'll show those in the mechanics as well, but if you're familiar with those types of games, it's your basic healing potion or flask mechanic with limited uses. But huge amount of design space opens up with handling that way, and it solves a bunch of problems with inventory capacity that I was worried about. Next thing is I spent a ton of time, and this is very difficult for me. It's kind of grueling. I like the programming and the design and so on, and I like kind of coming up with items, but doing the actual design of the items and putting all the numbers together and trying to come up with a certain number of them within a range and making sure that they're balanced power increments of each other is very tedious work. So I did a large amount of items. They're not completely done, but we have, I think about half of the weapon types are done up to level 10, which is the prototype phase, and then the frames are done up to level 10 as well. So there's a lot more sort of probably not final, but like real gear in the game, and you'll see some of that in the prototype as well. So different rarities of gear, different kind of power levels, and so on. And then I overhauled the crafting system. So crafting is now multi-component and it's order agnostic. So crafting recipes can have 12 different ingredients required, and you can put them into the assembler in any order and craft, and you'll get a result. In addition to that, the way I changed the data structure means on the client side, the presentation of the recipes, it's showing you a list of ingredients using the names rather than it was like internal keys before. So it looks a lot better as well. And then another thing that I worked on this week, which was sort of outside of the game, is I did some work designing the survey that the closed beta tester participants are going to take at the end of the process. And so I worked on that for about a half a day, putting together a bunch of questions about sort of, what how they generally game or have historically gamed, to put it in context, and then how they felt about the game, and then what they think is most important for the direction of the game, and so on. So if you're interested, you want to contribute, I have a separate video about the beta and how to sign up for that. I can also let you know if you message me on Facebook or Twitter what the steps are. It's very simple. You just fill out the contact us form on www.cranemountaingaming.com. We've hit the minimum number of people I need to actually hold the beta and get meaningful results from it. So yay, we're a go for that. But the more the merrier. And if you're worried because you're following this project because you know me or whatever, and you're not generally a gamer, so you're concerned about that, that is great. We want people of all backgrounds. Most of the people who signed up now are at least casual or semi-casual gamers. So it would be great to get some people in there who have a mobile phone or have a tablet running on the Android platform and are willing to poke around and see if they can figure it out, give me feedback, etc. You don't have to meet a certain time commitment or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. I just ask that you play the game. I'll send you all the instructions, help you get it installed, and then you'll fill out a survey at the end, which shouldn't take too long. So that's coming up next month in March, that beta period, and timing will depend on a couple other things, but it's looking pretty good to start on time now because of the progress on the art front. So that's the list. If you were just interested to know what's changing, you don't need to see anything, or you're gonna bug me and make me show it to you independently later. No worries. But now we're gonna jump into kind of the demo portion. And as usual, I've wiped the database, and this is partially tested, and it's live code and so on. So who knows what will happen? Sometimes we find some bugs, but generally things work pretty well. So I'm gonna switch over here. All right, we should be in the game now. And I'm going to fire it up, and you'll see our little Caillou guy there. Now, the explorers are getting randomly generated now, so it's possible they'll all look the same, or, so I may launch it a couple times and we get a configuration we like. I haven't totally finished this section of the code. So let's see, we're going to hire someone here, and we'll hire someone here. All right, they look the same, so we're going to drop out. We'll load this back in. We're just going to do this until we get there. We got some different people here. So we have some different explorers. So you'll notice here that this scene has been, as I mentioned, overhauled. The portal is still the same old, kind of crappy portal animation I created, but the scene has been redone, and in fact, the shop scene has as well. So here's the shop scene. Now, when we change scenes, you're going to notice that their skins randomly change. That's because I'm basically randomly assigning them because I had to code the mechanism to do that. What's really going to happen is the server is going to say, okay, this explorer will always use this skin and always look like this. That piece isn't done yet. So they're going to kind of change around as we go. You see there's a little sound effect here for the menus as well. Hopefully that's not too loud on the recording. So we hear a couple sound effects as we go through, but not all of them are in place yet. There we go. See, they look different than they did before. Okay. So this is the scene. So the objects here, this is our stash. Either of these are activatable objects to get to the stash menu. Hiring is not in the overlay yet, so you hire just off of this shelf here because why not? And then the portal is here. The movement commands, I'll show you the movement animations. Those are in place as well. The movement commands are going to odd locations now. I haven't had time to fix that. So this is like the stash command. So the explorer should walk over here to use the stash, but they're going to go kind of towards the middle of the room. So I kind of have things in the wrong places now. But as you can see there, we have a little walk, and then we have a little use animation, and then we have our little sound effect for the dialogues. Now the sound effects aren't final. So some of these will probably change, very likely to change, but we just kind of have put some stuff in here to put context and put some more life into the game. And they started to have a little conversation there along the way. So art and sound changes, and we'll get in a little fight here. I need to put some gear on. So notice the items have changed. So we have this pre-owned frame. The base capacities are higher. I got rid of the annoying little thing floating over their heads and replaced it with something way better, which I'll show you. I need to change the font for this because it doesn't match the background anymore, but minor stuff. Okay, so we've geared up Philip here, Philip Stapleton, and I don't think we need anything from the stash. We're not going to do any kind of crafting yet. I don't think that's super interesting for the demo, but basically you can research objects as you could before to uncover recipes, and then you can add, multiple things to the assembler. And this scrolling thing I need to rebalance the size on this because before it was just showing 2, now it can be like a bajillion. But anyway, yeah, you can craft multiple item recipes. So we're going to equip this gear, and you'll notice as we equip them that we have some quests updating. There we go, the orientation quest chain. So we have a new quest available. We gained some experience. I'm not going to mess around with that because you've seen that before. If you want to see it, check out a prior video. You'll notice here we actually have an aluminium recurve bow. So this is a new one of the new kind of item classes. So they have like real stats, real requirements. You see crit percentage and damage. So this bow increases our crit percent chance by 5 and has 10 crit damage as well as this. And the average damage calculation here is actually accounting for all of these elements. So it's calculating the average damage of the hit, including your percent chance of getting a critical hit plus the critical damage. Now, that calculation is only for this item. So if you have critical chance and you have crit damage on your other gear, you won't see that factored in here. I may add that in if you're wearing the gear. Haven't decided yet, but that's kind of minor. It'll come later. So that's part of the gear overhaul. And then these are our power cells here. This one has 4 charges and restores a capacity of 200, which is sufficient to take care of our El Crapo previously owned frame here, which is 100, basically 110 health pool. So that's a little bit about that stuff. And now we'll take a look at what the exploration looks like. Most of this is still the same. And there you see his skin changed again. So this is our other guy. We have 3 that are bouncing back and forth right now. I'm just going to create, I don't know, 40 or 50 of them. So now when we get into combat, we actually have animations to go with the updates. So we're actually exchanging blows here with an enemy for which we don't have a sprite or an animation yet. But yeah, the way this works is when you're attacking the attack, etc., and if this person dies, there's actually a death animation as well. So they're going to trade blows back and forth. And it's possible that you'll hear a different noise and you'll see a critical hit occur. So there's a different sound effect for the critical hit as well. The animation's the same, but there's a different sound effect, a different text update. So the frame capacity thing has been moved here. So now it's showing you the frame bar, much easier to read, much more clear what's going on. It's using the same sort of mechanism that the XP bar in the operating system overlay does, if you've seen that before. So we defeated that monster here, who obviously doesn't have a sprite or a death animation, and we're continuing on our adventure. And so one of the next things that's coming in terms of artwork is the exploration, which is right now just kind of this scrolling star field. This is actually going to change to something that stops moving when they're fighting, starts moving again when the explorer continues on the adventure, and so on, and has an actual background. Similar to what's on the habitat, but these are going to be kind of a looping infinite scrolling background to put context to the location. They're going to be probably 2 variations on that. So Philip stapled in here is going to town on some enemies. Oh, fighting the infant tardigrade. This is the one that kills everyone, actually. He has a better weapon than usual, so we'll see if he makes it. But the mortality statistics right now are very high in favor of the infant tardigrade wiping people out. So I may need to rebalance its stats a little bit. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, so Philip is going to continue to adventure here. Oh, there was a critical hit. I don't know if you heard the difference. But Philip is going to continue to adventure, and will eventually pop back here. Then we'll take a look at some other stuff. So that's kind of the demo here. So we have the different scene changes. Some of these objects will come in, the exploration will get buffed. But that's kind of what's going on. So we have our movement incorporated, we have our sound effects incorporated, and then our game mechanics are in better shape. The portraits here are just using the default sprites. I haven't changed that yet. But yeah, there you go. I don't have a recipe here because I don't have the material, so I'm not going to show you that. But the recipes basically list all the multiple ingredients and so on now. So there you go. There's kind of your demo. So the next big thing from art, like I said, the exploration plus the enemies, will put that sort of more fully into context, so it'll make more sense from a world perspective. And then I'm continuing to work on the creation of the content and adding in additional game mechanics and finalizing some of the stuff like how hiring the explorers work and that kind of thing. And then the other thing is the person who is doing the soundtrack for the game has actually started work on that. And I don't think that'll take too long, so hopefully in next week's update or the week after that, I'll have the music in place as well as kind of sound and volume controls, which will likely be kind of a volume bar and then maybe like a preferences app in the overlay here. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'll probably add some more sound effects and change some sound effects around in different portions of this as well. And then based on some of the changes, I need to update some of the perks. I did some of them as they go, but there actually is enough in place now to fill out the shop portion of the perk grid, which was not really in place before. And then the next big thing to do after that is I need to do, oh, there we go, back from the action, got a small hide. Here we go. So yeah, those tardigrades are rough. So a little bit of frame capacity here, but you can see the power cell completely exhausted. We need to recharge that, but we don't have any money, so we can't. So we can't pay our power bill here, because right now I start with $0, which is not how it'll actually work. But I would go sell some items or perform some tasks to gain credits, then I can recharge the cell and I'm good to go again. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. So I need to basically update the look and feel of all of these overlays and modals, and I need to rescale them because they're not scaling properly on different devices. So while more of the art gets developed and I'm piddling with the content and getting the music in and stuff, a lot of that time will actually be spent updating the overlays and making them scale better to different device sizes, so that when we go into the beta, people with different screen sizes don't have a bad gaming experience or have any difficulties being able to participate. So there we go. That's the update for this week. So starting to look a bit more like a real game. Very simple here. I've only showed you a small portion of it, but yeah, that's the deal. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the next few updates will start to come together and look more holistically like something you'd actually be interested in playing. So thanks for your support so far, and if you have any questions or comments or feedback or anything, drop a note on this video or the Facebook page or Twitter, or you can contact me through the website. I'm happy to hear from you, and thanks for all your support so far. Have a great weekend.